Hi, and welcome to SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave in the comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. AEW Revolution 2022 is in the books, and it's going to be review time here on the channel now. And I'm joined by a very special guest today, NX Steve. How are you doing, and did you enjoy Revolution 2022?
I'm very good, Steve. Thank you for having me back. Yeah, I did enjoy the show from start to end. I had a couple of qualms, sort of with one or two things, but we'll get into that as we go through the show. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, overall, I thought the show was spectacular. For most, from start to finish, there were a few parts of it that I'm looking forward to diving into more detail with you. And Percy, for me, I'd like to know what your highlights of the show were before we go into it by detail in order.
Highlights: William Regal, man. Like I popped hard
Yeah.
when that guy come out. It was pretty special, man. I mean, Swerve come out as well. That was really good. And then just things like the Sting match, like the Sting's 60 years old and he's doing crazy stuff like that. And just there was loads of decent wrestling, which is what you always want to see from a pay-per-view. It was really good, man.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, like you said, there's some great things in the show. William Regal is one I'm looking forward to diving into. Wardlow for me is a big point as well.
Oh,
Obviously,
yes.
winning the Face of the Revolution ladder match, the face turn later in the evening, the way that was done with CM Punk and MJF as well. Lots of great things happen in this show. And like I say, if anyone wants to dive in with their comments as well, then please feel free to. Jonesy is in house already. Says incredible pay-per-view. Regal debut was a nice shock. For once, Dirt Sheets didn't ruin it. They clearly didn't have it, mate. That's why they didn't ruin it. They didn't have it, and long power to it, because if they get hold of them, they will expose it. It's quite nice that over the weekend with MSG, with WWE, and here with this show, nothing was spoiled. It was quite nice. So yeah, fingers crossed that could be the way forward. But I mean, going into this, then I mean, we'll start with a buy-in if you don't mind. And obviously, with Layla Hirsch going against Chris Statlander. I thought this was a solid match between the two ladies. Went to with the story as well of Layla Hirsch recently becoming a heel. She used the cheating tactics to win using a turnbuckle that was outside of the ring. Hit Chris Statlander with that, and then went on to go and get the pinfall victory afterwards. And that puts her in position to perhaps go for the AEW Women's Championship in the very near future. What are your thoughts with this opening contest?
A solid opening match. I was a bit confused by the whole production quality because it all seemed to be like ringside cameras, like as if the hard cam wasn't working at the time. But apart from that, yeah, very solid match. A unique weapon as well, used in an offensive type. Like I've never seen someone use the corner support as a weapon. And yeah, now she's got a number one contenders match against Thunder Rosa coming up, and then whoever wins that will go on to face Britt Baker again.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we'll be talking more about Thunder Rosa and potential prediction of where we think that will go later in the evening. To give this sort of match a bit of a rating out of the 5 stars, what would you give it?
I'd probably give it a 2. It wasn't the best, but it was a solid match that for something that probably didn't have a bigger build as the rest of the card. It was a solid match.
Absolutely. I think it filled its placement very, very well. I think for me, I'll give it like a 2.5. I think I was overall very satisfied with it. And obviously, you got to get satisfaction as well when you hear Kenny Omega's music, of course, pop into AEW's Revolution venue. But of course, we didn't get Kenny, did we? We got Mino Don Callis, of course, coming out and adding fuel to the fire, actually throwing a bit of speculation, talking about the confidence of Adam Cole winning the title, saying the Bucks will win the tag team titles as well, talking about the idea as well of Red Dragon being brought in. This is clearly stirring up things for when Kenny Omega does return, and this story I can take into basically full flow from that point onwards.
Yeah, I mean, twice tonight they got us with the whole music intro thing, and for me once, shame on you. For me twice, shame on me, man. But Dan, yeah, Don Callis coming out. Hopefully, Kenny Omega's back soon. I look forward to it. It's going to be fun to see his creative going forward, because obviously, where is he going to fit back in? Is he going to go straight back into that world title scene, or what? Or this whole new thing with Jay White? Well, I can't wait to see what happens.
It's going to be interesting to see, obviously, at this point. I mean, I'm unsure. I mean, obviously, I feel the long-term direction is going to be Omega the Bucks against Adam Cole and obviously Red Dragon, but we'll have to wait and see where it will lead to. Will Don Callis obviously be on the side of Kenny Omega? Because, well, I imagine Omega and Bucks would be the face in that lineup, and Adam Cole and the Red Dragon would be the heels. So does Don Callis work as a babyface, in your opinion?
It will be interesting to see, but at the minute, he's like all I've ever seen of him is heel. So it'll just be an interesting dynamic to see when it does happen, if it does happen.
It's a big if at this point. Obviously, I mentioned Satisfaction earlier on as well. And of course, getting Hook on the buy-in, his first exposure to sort of pay-per-view. Obviously, that hot crowd there, taking on QT Marshall. I mean, it was almost like, a bit of a mismatch, really, in this sort of, you think with the trainer that QT Marshall is, but Hook, he's a level above already. He's so over with the crowd. He's hitting in those submission moves, eventually hitting Red Rum as well. Once in, getting another submission victory. It feels like that the future is very, very bright for Hook.
Yeah, I mean, he was over before he'd even started wrestling, really. It's amazing. And yeah, like I said, it's good to actually see him have a match last longer than a couple of minutes. So like, most of his matches have been squashes before, but yeah, a good solid start to his in-ring professional career.
Absolutely, indeed, there. And obviously, not too much to give to it. I suppose this match probably, what, a 2-star, would you say? Is probably fair for it because it wasn't that long.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's sort of, he's building his way up. So yeah, it's not going to be a 5-star one to tell your friends about, but it was a solid match, and yeah, he did well.
Absolutely, indeed, there. And obviously, we had one other match on the kickoff also. And this one almost said, like, we're on the kickoff, are we? Let's attempt to steal the show. House of Black going against Penta Oscuro, I believe he's going by now. It's like the Pentagon Dark character. We've got Pac. And obviously, we had Eric Redbeard. For me, this was absolutely phenomenal from start to finish. Some of the spots in this match, and I just was taken away the way we were taken into destroyers, just, big men throwing big men around the ring and stuff. It just a wow factor all the way through. Send me some of your standouts of this 6-man tag team match.
The whole thing, from word go, the intro when you had Matthews, Black, and King all standing there, and this curtain drops, and the three of them are standing there in masks, and I'm like, my God, what an amazing sight! What a really good looking faction. And yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is like easily the best looking faction in AEW for me now. Like, their aesthetic is like on point. It is amazing. In the match itself, Eric Redbeard and Brody King starting the match off when they're just doing shoulder charges. It looked like two small children just run at each other constantly. It was, I was laughing my head off. It was fantastic. And to see Buddy Matthews in a ring again. I hadn't seen a Buddy Matthews match since he left. And my God, that guy is good.
He was a standout for me because, when they say that first impressions count, it really felt like he was like just everything he was doing was pinpoint perfection. I mean, really kudos to Buddy Matthews. I thought it was amazing. And for me, I really need to see a Buddy Matthews versus Pac match going forward. I think those two can absolutely tear it up in a singles match.
I literally thought, imagine that WWE had these two guys in their 205 division, and these two are their wrestling is just amazing, man. It was so good to see these two go at it again.
It certainly was. And this was chaotic, wasn't it, towards the end? Went everywhere. But in the end, obviously, we see Eric Redbeard was actually isolated. It was missed in the eye as well. And then Brody King, almost like, seemed like a powerbomb Mitch Luker driver kind of combined thing. It was like Bam Bam Bigelow's old finishing move, where it's kind of just driven headfirst into the canvas to pick up the pinfall victory. But House of Black here, amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes next, because I do think that when Ray Phoenix comes back, he'll take Eric Redbeard's place, and we'll probably get that trios match again.
Yeah. I would not be against it. It was a solid match that, like, you think this was on the buy-in. We got this for free, essentially. We didn't have to pay for this match. It was really, really good.
Amazing. It just shows what you can get from Tony Khan. But one thing we didn't get, Jonesy's asked the question, we will do it before we go into the main show. Where did Jay Lethal go? Somewhere. He's not been shown for a while, has he, in AEW? Here's my little prediction for you, Jonesy, quickly before I go and move over to Nick Steve. I think he is going to be one of the faces of the new Ring of Honor. Now, I know obviously Ring of Honor is where he was, but I can see him doing quite a bit of work with the Ring of Honor. Now it's been an acquisition for Tony Khan. Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, Jay Lethal's Ring of Honor through and through, isn't he? Really, I think does he hold the record for possibly their longest reigning heavyweight champion as well? And yeah, he's Ring of Honor through and through. So yeah, I can see him doing a lot more depending on what Tony Khan does with Ring of Honor. Whether it's, I don't know, a third show that he's going to get put on TV or something like that. It's just going to be really interesting to see what he does with that brand.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see as well. And apparently, he has actually said in a press conference that he will be the booker for that show as well. So interesting stuff indeed there. And obviously, we mentioned about a few other names, and a few other ROH references will come up in the stream as well, because it wasn't the only ROH reference probably the night that we can make here. But starting off the show then, the main card, we had Eddie Kingston against Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, I've got to say very quickly, shout out to him for the conditioning he's got himself into ring shape. I mean, the way he's actually changed himself over the last sort of few months is nothing short of incredible. Eddie Kingston as well. These two just from the off. I mean, that sort of, one of Eddie Kingston's big moves hit very early on. It was like a underarm hooks, German suplex. Incredible start to the match. And obviously these two just tore it up. I mean, it was a suplex from the ring, hardest part of the ring apron to the floor. We see some of Chris Jericho's big moves, like the lion salt being involved in there. But Eddie Kingston, even though he took a few attacks to the eye, he attacked Chris Jericho as well, hitting a few of his sort of like he does those spinning back fists and then hit his submission hold in there. Obviously, with the third time when he sort of ranked that neck in the submission hold, Chris Jericho left no choice but to tap. Eddie Kingston shocked as well. We got his victory. For me, I thought this was brilliant. I love the way it was put together, and Eddie Kingston picking up the win and not even seemingly aware that he'd won the match. He seemed unconvinced that he'd won it.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not used to winning the big one. This was quite cool.
Yeah, it was a killer, man. I mean, I predicted that Eddie Kingston was going to win this because it would do wonders for him. But to make Jericho tap as well, that's a really big thing to have Jericho tap. And like you said, Jericho looking ripped at 50-odd years old, man. That guy puts any dad bod to shame. But man, yeah, what an opening match. It was just non-stop. And it was almost like it was like a 30-year rivalry that these two had been building up to for this match. Like the promos that we'd had before, it was just a solid story going into it, and an even more solid match. And what a way to open the pay-per-view.
It was incredible. And do you know what, as well, I really liked was the fact that fans can really make a difference on a match. And you just felt that this was the perfect match to kick off because the crowd were hot. They were into it. Obviously, the arrogance of the superstar that is Chris Jericho, the underdog story of the guy that couldn't get over the line, Eddie Kingston. The fans are really behind Eddie as well. It just felt like that emotion was really in there. It added another level to this match. It really made Revolution seem like this could be the biggest AEW show of the year.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I worry about now is can Eddie Kingston go on to win the big one? I don't know if this is the starting block to something special, and we finally get Eddie Kingston go on and win a major world championship. Can he get to the top of the card? Is Chris Jericho the first step in this? It'll be really interesting to see, and I think it would almost be like it'd be almost like a Daniel Bryan rise at WrestleMania 30. If you get this guy, if you book him right and you get his creative right, he could be, say, like a Daniel Bryan, and he could be a massive face if he was to go on and win a world championship.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the place would just be crazy if that happened.
Yeah.
It would be one of the real feel-good moments in wrestling, wouldn't it? Another question I've got to ask you very quickly as well is that we didn't see Santana or Ortiz involved in this. They've been in sort of the build of this storyline. They seem to be on Chris Jericho's side, but obviously what played after the match was Chris Jericho was supposed to give the handshake, supposed to acknowledge respect. Eddie Kingston said that he respected Chris Jericho. He put out the hand. Chris Jericho didn't take it. He walked away. Is this going to play out to further storyline on Dynamite and Rampage with Santana and Ortiz being upset that Jericho didn't keep his word and didn't shake their homie's hand in Eddie Kingston?
Yeah, I mean, we could get the reformation of LAX with when Eddie was in charge of LAX back in Impact days with Santana and Ortiz. It really, I mean, their creative is so good because it leaves so many possibilities open. Now, like you said, Jericho's been feuding with Santana and Ortiz. There's almost this split that's happened between those two and the other three members of Inner Circle. So yeah, it's really intriguing. It really is must-watch TV at the minute.
It really, really is. I have to agree with you there. And yeah, it's exciting stuff. This was a great way to kick off the show. And I think there's not many ways you could have done it better. Let's go into the chat quickly, see what people got to say. Jones says, heard today, Regal, Samoa Joe will start stable. Let's see if that comes to light. Well, we'll see if it comes to light. Obviously, Samoa Joe would be a big get as well, whether it would be to do with AEW, whether it would be to do with... of course, ROH as well. There's some history there with Joe and that promotion. So could Tony Khan be looking to sort of bring those sort of endorsements with superstars like that to go into Ring of Honor?
I mean, it almost makes sense now with the size of his roster now that he's purchased ROH, that he can bring in ROH legends like Samoa Joe and take essentially keep ROH as what it is, and which is a really good wrestling show. But with the size of his roster, I've always worried that he's got too many people. But now if he's got another brand and he can easily book these other people on these ROH shows, man, it almost feels like he's building his own NXT essentially with ROH. Like he's going to have a second brand, and essentially, I know they've not called it a developmental, but it's that along that lines. Like he can have more people on TV. You can have more wrestlers from the indies. Like I want to see Bandido back as well. I love Bandido and think he'd be great in AEW. So yeah, the possibilities are endless.
They really, really are. And I'm very excited to see what can come along with that, obviously, as well. So let's see what goes down. And we'll talk about this one quickly now, because obviously we'll probably talk more detail later. But obviously, we've got Shahid who's asked here, will we see a rematch between Britt Baker, DMD, and Fonda Rosa for the Women's Championship? I think the short answer to that is yes. Obviously, we've got St. Patrick's Day Slam on the way.
Well, she's got Fonda Rosa's got to get past legit Layla Hirsch first. That's the number one contenders match. So as long as Thunder Rosa can get, because they've got to say now, Layla Hirsch has gone, I think, 8 or 9 matches in on the row. She's probably number 3 in the women's rankings now, and Thunder Rosa is still number 2. So yeah, it's the number 1 contenders match coming up. I think it's this week on Dynamite actually. But yeah, as long as Thunder Rosa can get past legit Layla Hirsch, we will see this again. I mean, I was very shocked by this match, but we'll get into that later when we get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward more. And I'll give some more details where I think that could be heading as well. Now, I do believe that match will be on. I don't think it'll be just straight one-on-one match. So that's something to sort of stick around for if you're wondering what maybe could be that suggestion later on in the video. But obviously, we'll move on in the meantime. And we will talk about the AEW Tag Team Championship. That was the next match, the freeway, obviously, with the Jurassic Express against Red Dragon and the Young Bucks. Incredible 3-team match this was. It was incredible. I mean, we had the sort of Red Dragon and the Bucks on the same page. It felt like it was 4-on-2 for a while, but of course, it can only go so long before obviously they realize, hang on, one of us wants to win the match here, so how are we going to make this work? We didn't have where Jurassic Express either were the afterthought. There's some great hot tags in the match, some great maneuvers in the match as well. And of course, eventually, they weren't able to get where one of the members of Young Bucks were isolated. It was Matt Jackson that was to eat the Jurassic Express finisher move, and it was the pinfall victory, and the champions were to retain. But this for me was an outstanding tag team match. Honestly, there's so many great moments happening in this match. It's criminal the fact that I can't sit here and talk about all of them, because we could sit here easily for 20-25 minutes just talking about the match alone.
This is why I love AEW, because it's tag team wrestling is just at its best in this brand. Like, these guys put on killer matches every time, and Jurassic Express winning this is a big win for them, especially over the likes of Red Dragon and Young Bucks. It was kind of almost foretold though that they were going to win because of the story that's playing out between the other 4. But regardless, it's still a massive, massive win for Jurassic Express. But yeah, the spots that Jurassic Express finishing move, my God, that is something special, man. Like I watched it and I completely forgot about it, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I need to see that again. And yeah, just some of the other stuff, like the Bucks are just, it's like the match started off at like a sort of a 50 mile per hour, but then in a short period of time, it just amped up, hit 120 miles an hour and just kept on going, man. It was unbelievable.
So many near falls, so many great moments. It just, overall, it just was wow. Didn't quite know really how to react to it. It's just that incredible. I mean, obviously, what the direction is going to go next week. We expect, obviously, Red Dragon and the Bucks will continue on with their feud, and obviously, that it will sort of probably take another level now. Probably we've got what goes on and what we know happened later on with Adam Cole.
Yeah, exactly. It's just. It's amazing. So we can keep going on about this much because it is that good, but it's how creative these guys get. It's just how they keep thinking of new stuff to do, and yeah, man, I love tag team wrestling. AEW is so good for it, man. I would like to say, I wish we could talk about this match all night, but unfortunately, we've got the rest of the card to get through.
We have indeed, yeah, absolutely indeed. And obviously, Jonesy shares the sentiment that tag match was epic. And do you know what also was epic? That Face of the Revolution ladder match. I mean, wow. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite matches of the night as well. Obviously, Wardlow picking up the victory, but let's just talk about just a few details very quickly. Obviously, the idea of the 3 big meaty men trying to get themselves where they were just wrestling each other, Keith Lee, Hobbs, and Wardlow, but obviously was always interrupted by someone, usually Orange Cassidy. I like the spot where Orange Cassidy had the ladder around his neck and obviously was hitting a few people. Then he was picked up by Keith Lee and Wardlow and flipped himself over on the ladder. I thought that that was a really, really cool spot. We see obviously when the three big meaty men got themselves up towards the entranceway with the commentary table, Wardlow knocking both Hobbs and Keith Lee through the off the stage through a set of tables, and of course in the end, Christian Cage was taken out of the match. Orange Cassidy was taken out of the match. Ricky Starks looked like he could have had the win, but took a nasty looking power bomb off the ladder onto another ladder. Wardlow picking off that super Sonic the Hedgehog ring to pick up the W. This was awesome.
I thoroughly loved this match, and yeah, Wardlow was my pick from the start because from your tweet the other day, and I replied, I said Wardlow's got to win this to start the MJF feud. But my God, man, spot fest after spot fest, this was the Orange Cassidy pulling himself up, standing on top of the ladder, and then falling through was, oh man, just pure class, man. You can see why they put Cassidy in these matches, because the sheer comical value that guy adds is amazing. When we had all six of them on two ladders as well, I was terrified that one of them ladders was going to snap, man, because one of the supports had snapped on the side, and you got Keith Lee on there, who's the biggest guy, and I'm like, oh no, please don't tell me that ladder snaps, man. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed, and yeah, Wardlow's now the face of the Revolution. I can't wait to see what happens with this going forward now.
It's proper exciting. And there's one other little note of the match actually I really liked as well. You know, when Hobbs and Wardlow picked up the ladder and they basically just pulled it apart. You know, if people tell me and say we've seen it all in ladder matches, we've seen everything there is to see, don't tell me that, anybody, because these guys made this such a fresh ladder match. There was so many innovative spots in and throughout.
The bit where even where the ladder was propped in the corner and Hobbs goes up the ladder and he suplexes Stark from the top and you've got Keith Lee under it holding it while it's leaned because it was sliding, and like he's doing suplexes off a leaned ladder, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, this was crazy. But yeah, the snapping on the ladder, man, I'm just unreal. Like I was not expecting them to like do a double team hit with it, but no, they split the thing in half. It was amazing, unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed. And we're going to talk more about Wardlow in a little bit, because I want to save that for after the MJF match. But obviously, we'll follow this up. Of course, it's Revolution, and it seems every pay-per-view these days we get a brand new signing. Swerve Strickland is All Elite. Tony Schiavone kind of showed the clipboard a few times to the camera, so we kind of knew beforehand. But I mean, it's Swerve's house. He's there. This has been one of the worst kept secrets for a while. I mean, it's been reported since November that he was going to be All Elite from Sean Ross Sapp. So it shows these reports can come out very early sometimes if they've got the spoilers. But hey, Swerve is there. I think he's going to do some good things in AEW. I'm looking forward to see what he brings to the table.
I'm hopefully looking forward to him carrying on where he left off in NXT, and he will just continue to rise. Because imagine WWE got rid of that guy. It's unreal, man. He's gonna fly by through WWE. He's gonna have so many good matches, man. I want to see him with the likes of Ricky Stark. I want to see him with the likes of MJF. I want to see him with Sammy Guevara. Like the four pillars, essentially, man. He's going to have some killer matches on AEW.
He really is. Do you see him being a babyface or a heel in the promotion?
I think he'll be a baby heel. So he'll be like an Austin, essentially, a heel that everyone just loves, man, because he's that good.
I can see that. I think I can see that. I think that does make a lot of sense there. We'll move on then to our fourth match of the card, which was Jade Cargill against Tay Conti. For me, both of these are obviously to push for the future. It's the TBS Championship for a reason. I do think both ladies gave a fairly good account of themselves, but I do think that this match probably fell in a bit of an awkward placement. Obviously, after two of those epic matches, particularly that ladder match, it's the match before as well, CM Punk and MJF. But of course, what can only be described as a lip lock to kick off this match between the two. It certainly made all the certain demographic, I think, very happy watching this match. But obviously, we saw some innovative offense as well. Jade Cargill hitting a frog splash, I thought was quite fun in this match.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautifully hit as well. But I mean, obviously, in the end, Jade Cargill, just too much, 29-0, hitting her finisher jaded. It just seems like she's going from strength to strength. She is probably not quite ready to be the top main eventer yet for the women's division, but she's certainly well on her way, isn't she? There's star power in her.
Yeah, I mean, from the minute ago when she come out, she looked like $1 million. She's like, her physique is like she's peak physical fitness. She's just an unreal talent. I mean, for a match that compared to the rest of the card had really didn't have much of a build to it. These two stole the show. I was a bit weirded out by Anna Jay hitting Jade with a chair and stuff like that during this match, but it was like it didn't fit their character profile in. But apart from that, no, it was a solid match for what it was.
I would have to agree with that. And we've not done a lot of the star ratings for a lot of the main cards.
Oh.
So just because my brain is completely gone off the trail with that, we'll just quickly do a backpedal with that. Just to go with the 6-man tag from the buy-in, what would you give that as a star rating? We'll give it as a bundle here for everyone.
4.5.
I think that's
Yeah, I thought
fair.
it was great. 4.5.
I think it was definitely fair. I'm going to agree with you 4.5 there because it blew my mind. Watching it was like, this is a buy-in match. Eddie Kingston and
Yeah.
Jericho, I think for me, I'm going to go for a 3.5.
I'm going to go over 4. Actually, I think the character work in it was a lot, like, really, really good for me. And that's one of the things I appreciate about wrestling is good character work.
There is some very good character work, and maybe I'm being slightly harsh. I mean, the crowd as well did a big, gave a big part to that match as well, and someone can really elevate things as well. So go on, I'll go up to 3.75. I'll be a little bit more generous than what I have been. The tag team match, I mean, for me was another breathtaking one. I think that's got to be a 4.25 at least.
I would say a 4 for me. Yeah, it was good, but I enjoyed the other matches more, the Faces of Revolution and the House of Black match.
Yeah, absolutely. Face of Revolution, what would you give that?
4.5. That was a great match. That.
For me, it's one of my favorite matches the whole night, so I'm going with you with 4.5 as well for that one. Absolutely fantastic. And Jade versus Tay Conti.
2.5. I'm going to give it a 2. If it was safe for what it was, 2.5.
I would have to agree because I think it's in a very awkward placement. I don't really blame the ladies for it. I just think they've kind of got a bit of a rough end of the deal and not a lot of time to work with either. So I would agree with that. Let's quickly go into the chat. Josie says, imagine how the AEW roster would look if the WWE didn't release everyone and Punk had gone back to WWE. Yeah, they would probably not have quite a number of people.
Half that card would have been empty last night. You wouldn't have had Matthews. You wouldn't have had Black. You wouldn't have had Tay Conti, because Tay Conti, we used to be in WWE. You wouldn't have had Dragons. Yeah, man, that would have been a very different looking show from what it was last night.
It would have indeed. The only thing I would say, though, and to the contrary, is that AEW pushed a lot of the homegrown stars last night as well, which was quite nice to see. I mean, obviously, some big wins for the people like Eddie Kingston over Chris Jericho. It's good and really, really nice to see. So even though a lot of these people are coming in, like we mentioned Keith Lee didn't pick up the W. Does that harm Keith Lee in the long term?
No, because Keith Lee already had star power and still had star power when he came into the company. He doesn't need to win a Face of the Revolution match to be pushed up the card. He already has essentially a massive fan back in. But you can tell from Wardlow winning what that's done for him. From where Wardlow came into the company and where he is now, he is starting to get up into the levels of where Keith Lee is. So no, not at all. I don't think he'll suffer from that at all.
Fair play indeed. And another point as well there, another homegrown in Wardlow, and it shows what a right decision it was there with everything they've done with him. Incredible move from AEW. And like you say, it's very exciting to see what it's going to lead to next. And of course, what leads to next for us then is CM Punk versus MJF. And it all started with a bit of play of entrance music, wasn't it, on the intros?
Yeah, Punk coming out. Well, so initially MJF coming out to Cult of Personality just for it to stop, and then we got Punk coming out to his old Ring of Honor entrance music. Very. I didn't know what it was at first, but yeah, it was his Ring of Honor music.
It was. Yeah, I'd never heard it before, but certainly was interesting.
No, I
didn't. Ring attire as well. So I mean, the Ring attire of 2002 from those famous rivalries of the peoples of like Raven and people like that. Good times.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't know what it was. But it was a good character dynamic because where Punk could play mind games with Cult of Personality, Punk's able to go and do the exact same thing with his Ring of Honor tune. It was really, really good.
It really, really was. And just to go into the detail of the match itself, then obviously these two absolutely tore it up. It was a pure emotion, pure violence, brutality. Obviously, the dog collar involved here with the stipulation for this match. CM Punk bleeding very, very early on. We saw like a tombstone from CM Punk to MJF on the hardest part of the ring. Obviously, thumbtacks being involved as well. We saw, let's say CM Punk being blooded very, very early on. MJF having his hand being attacked all through the match as well. There was lots of brutal spots throughout this entire match.
I really felt uncomfortable watching this at one point because of the amount of blood that Punk was losing. Like, I was concerned for the guy because at one point it was running off him. And then there was it was this match, wasn't it, where he had him in the corner outside against the barricade and he's punching him in the head right next to the crowd while he's got blood pouring out of his head. I was like, it really made me feel uncomfortable in certain points. But As a feud ender, I think it's a really good way to end it all. The dog collar is such an awkward thing to use as a stipulation. Like there was one point where Max is out on the apron and then Punk goes through the second rope and Max is trying to get back in the ring to untangle the dog collar chain from around the ropes and where it was. And yeah, like I said, they got the small problems that they did have. They dealt with them well. But yeah, it's just what a brutal match, man. Let's say the first chain hit that MJF does on Punk, and that you can see the welts on his back instantly, man. It was brutal.
It really was brutal. And like you say, it was tough to watch in places. But obviously, going towards that finish where Wardlow is being called to come down to ringside. And obviously, he's dressed up like he's the best man at a wedding, trying to find that ring. And obviously, he's looking at all the different pockets, can't find it. Of course, then we find that MJF ends up in the go to sleep, obviously hit by CM Punk, falls into the thumbtacks. That looks brutal enough as it is. CM Punk takes a look at Wardlow. Wardlow magically finds the diamond ring, puts it in the ring. Obviously, the place goes absolutely crazy for that face turn. CM Punk uses the diamond ring and gets the pinfall victory. This was just absolutely incredible. And I think it was just such a subtle way to turn Wardlow face as well with that diamond ring. Also, this for me was the stuff what dreams are made of here in wrestling. Great storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, even little things like Punk spitting in MJF spitting in Punk's face just before he takes that final shot with the ring, I just thought was great. But yeah, like I said, you just think about the character work. You think that Wardlow is just he's completely fed up now with MJF constantly just using him as a guinea pig. This is why I'm excited for him winning this Face of the Revolution match and getting the shot at the TNT Championship, because we're now going to see how these two play out on Dynamite this week or whenever it will be. And yeah, it's just been a long time coming for Wardlow, and I'm really excited for what it holds.
Yeah, me as well. And obviously now, like you said, the TNT Championship shot is there for him in a couple of weeks. Obviously, Sammy Guevara will take on Scorpio.
You're cutting out on my end, Steve. I can not hear you at all at the minute. It's breaking up.
Shot the week after. Do we think that Wardlow wins the?
Be honest with you, Steve, I cannot hear or see you at the minute. It is completely cut out. I've got a frozen picture of you on my screen. I roughly heard about Wardlow winning the TNT Championship, I think, but I've got nothing since. There we go. There's a third one, you know.
I don't know why there's two of me there. That's really, really strange. But yeah, thankfully I've come back for the second. Obviously, I've missed what you've been saying for the last little bit, but fill me in.
No, literally, I was waiting. From my perspective, I had you like intermittently saying stuff, and the last bit I caught was, "Do you think Wardlow can win the TNT Championship?" Apart from that, I've been radio silent for about 2 minutes. But technology's great, isn't it?
Sometimes you can't live with it, and sometimes you can't live without it. And unfortunately, in this situation, definitely can't live without it, and would prefer it would work while we do this. It's very frustrating when we get this happening, but hey, we're here anyway. And just to get an answer, then, do you think he's going to win it?
What, the TNT Championship?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think MJF could probably end up costing it. I think if story wise, if depending on who wins that, Sammy and Scorpio. I think if Scorpio was to win it, I wouldn't want to see Scorpio lose it straight away. So yeah, it just I think I'd love to see him win it. I don't think it will happen because of MJF though.
I totally agree with you 100%. I think bang on, that is what is going to happen. I don't see Wardlow winning it. I think then we're going to continue on with that feud afterwards. But I can't ignore the chat. It's blowing up here. Of course, we've got Steve has a twin. We've got Double Trouble as well. Must be seeing double Martin Carrillo, 3 or 4 Steves in the show. Yes. It's good to be back, though. It really, really is. But yeah, we've got Martin Carrillo as well. The comment says, "What's up, Steve? Wow, AEW made so many stars. It's crazy. AEW is just beyond the roof right now. Really, really is. They're doing incredible things from start to finish. And this was just a fantastic show, top to bottom. Really enjoyed the work that was going on. As we've gone on to say there, obviously CM Punk and MJF, they're one of the top matches of the night. Wardlow with that face turn was absolutely incredible. The way that was executed, just subtle things. You know, it's kind of like that Batista, Triple H, Alex Riley, Miz sort of moments, but this really can take Wardlow to that next level. And I think that once he gets that win over MJF, ultimately, and when they have their feud, Wardlow is going to be a star in the making, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's got he has everything about him that screams like top WWE guy. Like he has a physique, he's a good looking guy, he can wrestle. He's a big guy, which they all love, man. Like he would be, I reckon he'd be in the exact same spot if he was in WWE now. Like I reckon he'd be being pushed to the moon. And yeah, AEW have done the right thing. They've just slowly built their way up with Wardlow, and now they've got to the point where right, we can now flip the switch now, and we can push this guy all the way to the top.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what I think they're going to be doing from here, which is really, really cool to see. We've got another shout as well about Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page are great talents. It's beyond me that they aren't on Dynamite or Rampage a lot, especially Scorpio. Wasn't he with AEW since day one? He certainly was. He was their first ever tag team champion along with Frankie Kazarian. Obviously, they've got a new member as well coming with Dan Lambert as well, the UFC girl, which name escapes the top of my head right now, but she's going to sign with the company as well. But yeah, I think all of these are probably in due for a push, but they should be featured more, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably go through a lot of the AEW original roster and realize that there isn't a lot of talent being used. Some of the women on there still aren't being used to the best of their abilities. He's right there. Scorpio Sky isn't being used. Ethan Page isn't being used. Even other people like Joey Janela's not even on the card that much anymore. Pillman Jr. isn't on there. Do you know what I mean? This was the one problem AEW has, is they have such a massive talent roster, but now hopefully because he's acquired ROH, they can sort of adjust make the necessary corrections where needed, and we can get more of these AEW originals on screen.
Totally agree with you there, 100% there. And question for you then: CM Punk versus MJF, what would be your star rating?
I'm going to give it a 3, just because I felt that the amount of blood was so unnecessary that it made me uncomfortable in certain places. Like I said, especially when they're in the crowd and he's bleeding all over the place, man. I'm like, if I was at a wrestling event, I would not want to be like anywhere near a guy that's bleeding all over the place. But as for the rest of it, the Wardlow, the character dynamic, and for it being a dog collar match, yeah, I probably would have given it a 3.
Fair play. Yeah, I'm going to go with a 3.75 for me. I thought this was a good match, but it was brutal. Like you say, bit uncomfortable in places. And but to be honest, really, actually, with the Wardlow part at the end, I'm going to push it up to a 4 because I just think the whole thing was put together so well. It's a shame that it's the end of the feud with that there. But do you think CM Punk now goes on to the world title picture next for him?
I'm trying to think who they've got on the roster. I mean, I'm trying to think who their biggest hills are apart from MJF, really, because there isn't really a lot of hills on there. The only thing maybe is, I don't know, he has to go through Adam Cole next, maybe, just to go sort of build his way up. I don't want to, because Cole's a heel. So yeah, Adam Cole, CM Punk. I think that'd be a great rivalry as Punk's pushing his way up to this world title scene. I think that'd be a good start, especially with with Cole losing. It'd be a good reset from both.
Yeah, certainly would be. It'd be very interesting to see how that would play out as well there. Let's talk about the AEW Women's Championship match next then, which was, of course, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, against Fonda Rosa. Ultimately, I think a match that suffered in its placement, obviously, but these two got great chemistry in the ring. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, we saw the likes of Rebel, one of the two. Jamie Hayter as well getting involved constantly in this match. Fonda Rosa looked as well to have had her finisher, had Britt Baker's finisher on her at one point, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Of course, the Doctor managed to hit a curb stomp after, of course, Rebel and Jamie Hayter were laid out on the floor to pick up the victory. So, I mean, I thought this match was fine for what it was, but unfortunately, I do feel that the women's matches just weren't getting enough time and were given awkward placements on this show.
Exactly that. Like, as soon as this match started, the crowd were just like so gassed out from the Punk MJF match that they were it took like 90% of the match before they started getting into it. It was during, I think it was a kick out by Thunder Rosa or a near fall, or at a certain point right towards the end where the crowd started to come alive again and really be invested in this. But yeah, like you said, bad placement on the card for this because yeah, they suffered massively with this. But the match itself, solid. I just was not expecting Brit to win this. I was expecting Thunder Rosa to pick this up. I couldn't understand why they're probably going to wait till St. Patrick's Day Slam to probably move this title over to Thunder Rosa. I thought it would have made more sense to do it tonight, but otherwise, solid match.
Solid match indeed. I think there's a couple of reasons why. I think that they're going to do a stipulation match just like they did with the Lights Out match a couple of years ago, which I now will reveal what I think it will be. I believe it's going to be a steel cage match. That's what I think it's going to be to eliminate the factors. And I think AEW usually stick to that. You know, when people can't get in the cage, they usually don't get in. Obviously, with WWE, usually doesn't mean a thing, but AEW usually good at sticking with those. And obviously, Fonda Rosa, she's from Texas. The Patrick's Day Slam is going to be in a hometown. So I think put those two elements together. I think that's where you're going to get a brand new AEW Women's World Champion.
That's fair enough. I didn't realize Thunder Rosa was from Texas, but yeah, that's a sound shout, and that probably will be the most likely thing to happen.
We'll have to wait and see how it will go down. Give you a star rating for this match.
Not going to take anything away from them. I'm going to say 2.5. It was good. It's just unfortunate placement on the card for them.
Yeah, nothing against them, but 2.5, 2.75. I can't give any higher than that. I think that would be a fair rating to give. Martin Career says, man, the diamond ring pop from Wardlow was just great. It certainly was. It's one of those magic moments that you just love in wrestling. And also, we've got unpopular opinion that WWE pay-per-view pace is better than AEW ones, especially if you don't want to exhaust fans too much. Well, that's a topic I was going to bring up at the end of the video, but we'll talk about it briefly now. What is your perfect length for a pay-per-view?
3 hours is probably the ideal one. I can push myself to 4, but then, like for instance, last night where you've got a buy-in as well, it's 5 hours long, and it's. I understand that there's a lot of matches on the card to get through, but yeah, this is the problem that these wrestling companies have now, especially like AEW and WWE, because they've got such massive. This is why WrestleMania is now 2 nights, because no one wants to sit there for an 8, 9, 10 hour pay-per-view. If you give me 2 3-hour, 3.5-hour pay-per-views over 2 nights, perfect. I can do that all night long. I'm not going to be blown out. It gives me a reason that I can then go to sleep. I can sleep properly, get on with the rest of my day, come back again and watch the second half. But yeah, I would say 3.5, 4 hours. But yeah, it's just last night's was just a little bit too long with the buy-in for me. I would have done with it maybe losing an hour at least.
I would agree with you. I think for me, 3 hours is the perfect, like you say. I'm an old school traditionalist. That's how I like it. I like my 3 hour shows. And I think there are 3 or 4 matches here that didn't need to be on this card, even though they were still great. They didn't need to be here. I mean, arguably the buy-in is the Rampage portion of the show. Let's be honest. That's what matches where they would be. They wouldn't be on Dynamite necessarily either if they weren't on this show on the buy-in. So that's how I feel with it. But at the same time, I look at it and say that, well, it was given quality wrestling from start to finish. But, I mean, obviously a couple of matches did suffer with timing and placement, so maybe those wouldn't have suffered as much had they been better placed in the show, given, these matches, like you say, you've got 12 matches over a course of 5 hours. It still feels like that you're cramming some of it in and they need more time. So it would have been better having, say, 2, 3.5, 4 hour shows over 2 nights would have made more sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even like no disrespect to the guys on there, but the matches that we're probably rating lower, we probably feel could have been moved to a Rampage or a Dynamite, and you could have had them as on a go home show to this pay per view, really, instead of not forcing people, but having people to sit there for 5 hours. Instead, yeah, you probably could have just moved these onto the TV show.
Absolutely, indeed. There. Just one last comment in about Rosa and, of course, Brit Baker before we move on to Moxie and Danielson. Quite disappointed with that match. Expected that more. They needed stipulation. That will fix it. I'm pretty sure it will. I just think the timing. I just think it's with the storyline. Started a year ago. They left it so long to come back to it, and then it almost feels like they've rushed it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. That it's a feud that started a year ago. It's been put off for so long with barely any sort of interaction or contact, and now they're rushing it straight back to the point where it's here's a match for the women's world championship, and it's just that's what a lot of people are saying, unfortunately. But like I said, I suppose they've done the right thing in having Brit retain, because now we get this second match that will hopefully get more time, and we'll get a new women's champion, which, like you said, the position on the card, I suppose this again makes sense. If they're just after the CM Punk MJF match, The crowd aren't going to be as gassed for Thunder Rosa if she was to win it. So again, having Brit retain, take it to another show where where they put it in a better spot, ideal, and Thunder Rosa can win this championship. Maybe it was the right place to put it on the show.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think when she wins the belt on the St. Patrick's Day Slam, I think it'll be the main event. I really, really do, just like it was last year. So I think that's what's going to happen. But we'll move on to Moxley versus Danielson, one of the big talking points of this show. Of course, this was another one of those really physical, brutal, barbaric matches where, just striking is enough to make people bleed. And there was quite a lot of blood going for this one, Moxley and Danielson as well. A lot of striking, submission-based stuff as well from Danielson, but obviously just brutality from start to finish. It felt like Danielson had a lot of this match. Looked like he was very on top of it, had the triangle choke on, but in the end, very similar to Kurt Angle Undertaker back in No Out 2006. Moxley managed to sort of roll himself over and get the pinfall victory. I think the fans felt a little bit cheated at the way that 3 count was done, but I thought it was very clever. But obviously, take the match and the finish of it out of the account. It's what followed, which gets a lot of people really talking. But what were your thoughts with Danielson versus Moxley? I do think it was quite brutal and it was quite a fun match to watch.
Just a straight up fist fight, man. These guys, like, there was one of the first kicks that Moxley does to Brian, clocks Brian Danielson right in the chin, and I was like, oh, that's a rough hit. And from then on, it just looked like it was just strike after strike, like just a straight up street fight, really.
Yeah.
The match was so hard hitting. My only issue was the ending, like the surprise roll up pin. I would have preferred essentially like both fail to get up to. Do you know what I mean? Neither men gets up to the count of 10 kind of finish where neither men would win, but yet neither men would lose, because they could have had the same ending where they both carry on fighting afterwards if they'd had a no contest or both can't get up to the count of 10. Essentially, like, they just made it look like they'd beaten the living daylights out of each other. That I felt would have gone down better than Daniel Bryan getting a surprise loss, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, because I do think that makes a lot of sense. I think that would have worked really, really well. The thing I like about it is Moxley finally gets over the fact that he's never beaten Danielson. That kind of worked really, really well in that. But at the same time, Danielson suffers another loss in AEW, and he's eating quite a few pinfalls of late. And obviously, we don't want to see Danielson lose the stock because he's one of their top valuable assets and names, and arguably one of the best wrestlers in the world. But of course, like you say, the altercation continues after the match. And look, don't get me wrong, the match was very, very good. Not criticizing the match at all, because I'm probably focusing on some of the negatives of it. Still was a fantastic match. But obviously, William Regal comes on down here. We've seen that obviously we had security trying to break obviously Moxie and Danielson up, couldn't do so. Regal comes in the ring. They say William Regal as well. He seems to have his name there. Goes in, slaps Moxie around the face, seems to go face to face, gets some of Moxie's blood on his face as well. Goes over the Danielson, does the same as well. Gets them then to shake hands in ring as well. Now, obviously, we've been teased of this Moxie and Danielson stable going forward with the likes of Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, people like that could be in this stable. And we thought that's a pretty fun idea that we could have them like that. Then it's like, well, Moxie and Danielson as a tag team seems like a pretty cool idea. But then they go and top it one more time. They've almost got like a head boss here. It felt like I was watching like Ray Winston come in the ring. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Peaky Blinders.
It pretty much, yeah. It was one of those sort of moments. And like, yeah, I just thought it was amazing. I really, really was a stand-up moment for this show for me.
I loved it, man. Like, the thing was, he didn't even come down the ramp. He come down like the side part of the ramp as well.
Yeah.
Just as if like nonchalantly he'd just come from out the back. It's fine, you know. It's just William Regal. It's nothing, you know.
Yeah.
But man, I gassed that hard, and then Regal just looked like an adult just telling off his 2 kids for fighting. Man, it was thoroughly brilliant, man. I truly enjoyed it, and it's essentially what they needed, because you need a head of this faction if they are going to be a faction, and who better than Daniel Bryan's trainer and someone that John Moxley has idolized in the past and stuff. Yeah, this is brilliant, and for me, the highlight of the show. It wasn't even a wrestling spot, but it's just brilliant.
For me, it's highlight of the show as well. It's a real standout. Yes, we're Brits, and yes, it's William Regal. We know, we get the point, but it was amazing the way it was put together. And like you said, the possibilities are endless coming out of this. It's really, really exciting. I have been asked in the comments here about the idea of Danielson and Moxley in an exploding barbed wire match. I'm not sure we're going to see this match again. I think now they are on the same side. They've fought together. They've already bled together. I think now they're going to be on the same page together. Now William Regal has actually aligned them together.
Yeah, AEW need to stay away from anything with explosive barbed wire in it after their last show, definitely. They could have had another match, definitely, but no, I think this is the end of the feud now. We're just going to enjoy this Moxley Danielson, William Regal faction, man. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it really is going to be amazing. And to give this a star rating, this match, what would you give it?
I'm going to give this. I'm going to give this a 4 because although the match was hard hitting and solid, it was the point afterwards that I thought was the better thing than the match itself. But I'll give it a 4 because I say I preferred the other matches, but it was definitely one of the top matches of the night.
Absolutely. I think for me, the match would be 3.5, but with William Regal coming in, it's bumped up to a 4 because that whole segment, it just changed the whole dynamic of everything. Everything clicked in, all made sense very, very quickly. And AEW just took something and just immediately put it up to another level. And Martin Korea also asked here, what can Regal's catchphrase in AEW? In WWE, it was War Games, blood and guts. It's clearly going to be the one, isn't it? It's going to be all the way, all the way. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how he's going to bring that down. We've been asked as well here, is AEW's new Women's World Championship the best looking women's title in wrestling currently? What were your thoughts on the brand new AEW Women's World Championship?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know it was new. I thought it was the same one. I'll have to look at it quickly. As for best looking women's championship, I'm talking about the Divas Championship was easily the best women's championship. Let's have a look at it quickly. Yeah, no, so it's. I like the way that it's unique. Like it's not this. It's not like your traditional like how WWE just essentially replicate the men's belt and give it to the women, and they make their own thing out of it. Yeah, it's fine for what it is. It's just I wouldn't. Yeah, it's fine. It's not the prettiest title, but it would do. But it's unique, so that's what makes it special for me.
It is quite unique, I must admit. I do feel it's, for me, the nicest one to answer, Martin. I still feel it's the Knockouts Championship. I like that in Impact Wrestling. For me, that's my personal favorite. But yeah, I mean, they've done a good job with this upgrade. I think it looks really, really good. And power to the women. I'm looking forward to seeing when it's going to go next because they've obviously always taken it level up with this Women's Championship. It feels as important as it's ever been. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes next.
Oh, wait, hang on a minute. I was looking at the wrong photo. No, this is a lot better. This reminds me of the old Intercontinental Championship belt. This one's definitely a lot better now. Yeah, sorry, it's a lot better than the original one. It's a hell of a lot better. Yeah, but yeah, sorry, that's just my little add to it. I've just found a better picture of it. I think Steve's froze again. Let's have a look quickly. Unfortunately, someone must be running off hamster internet because yeah, he's frozen. But I can't see no comments. I can't see nothing, unfortunately. So you just have to deal with me for a minute. But no, it is. It's definitely a much prettier championship than the original one. I hadn't even realized they changed it, man. My issue is the TBS one because I can't deal with the TBS logo. I know it's the branded logo, but man, I think they could have done something better with that. Same with the TNT one. It's the belt itself is fine. It's just the logo I don't like on it. But anyway, how you guys? Oh dear, technology is a wonderful thing.
It really is a wonderful thing. I've actually changed. I've actually changed to 5G on my phone now. I've had enough of this. Let's hope it works with this.
I was just carrying on talking about the AEW Women's Championship and then complaining about the actual TBS and TNT logo on those belts. I said the belts are fine. It's just the logos I don't like.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair with that, indeed. But we'll move on then, shall we? While I'm still with you, because it's always a concern now of how we're going to get through the rest of this. Let's go for the 6-man trios tornado tag team match. Let's be fair. No story to this match, but absolute chaos from start to finish here with this one. Obviously, we see Darby Allin going through the bottom rope onto a trash can onto Jose. Sammy Guevara doing a Spanish fly off the top of the staging with, I believe, who was it that was going? I think it was Isaiah Cassidy that went flying through the table. We had Sting jumping off the top of a barricade through 4 tables on top of Andrade. And obviously, to finish things off, Darby Allin hitting a kind of a weak-looking coffin drop, but a coffin drop nonetheless on Matt Hardy to pick up the W. This was just, it was chaos. It was just a fun factor match for me. There's nothing more to put to it. No story, no any crazy thing. Just crazy spots, fun factor, enjoy.
That Spanish Fly was insane. I honestly thought they were going to die. The way because it was only 2 tables. Like you would have thought, I'll put 4 down at least, man, because that's an LED floor underneath, man. That's gonna hurt. But no, man. Luckily enough, they got away with it and they landed it all right. And then, yeah, Sting at 60 odd years old, jumping off the entranceway through 4 tables was just unreal. And I was like, man, I had flashbacks to Rumble 2000 or 2001 when you had the Hardys versus the Dudleys in a table match. And it's exactly the same thing. How the Hardy Boys won the match. They're going through 4 tables off the side there, man. It was unreal, man. But yeah, so props to Sting, man. The fact that he's still doing it at his age is amazing. Like, forget Goldberg, man. It's all about the icon.
He's north of 60 and he's jumping off barricades. Is Darby Allin being too much of an inspiration to Sting rather than the other way around?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, man. Because Sting has probably never done that in his life. He's probably never done a jump off of something to put someone through a table. So yeah, Darby Allin's a bad influence on him.
Absolutely. Looked like he had fun, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh, 100%,
yeah. And to give this a rating, then obviously this is just a fun factor match. What would you give it?
Another 4.5 for me because it was just insane, crazy, and it just had stuff in it. That Sting going through 4 tables and that Spanish Fly was just mental. It was unreal.
Absolutely. This is a match that had no divine right to get a high rating. It should be a match that didn't really need to be on the card, but they made it a factor that it had to be on the card.
And it was the second to last match. That was the other shock because I was looking at the card going, have they cancelled this trios match? I was like, this trios tornado. I was like, it's not on here, and like second to last match, and I was like, man, I can see why they did it now, but yeah, it was well worth the wait.
Absolutely, indeed. Then I'm going to give it a 4 for mine, but I totally agree with you, everything you're saying. This was just fun non-stop, and certainly it's to be fun in the chat as well from everybody. Come on, Steve, stop teasing Steve with another Steve. If I had a twin, I promise you, I'd be as shocked as you because, it's unfortunate what's been going on with the technology. I'm just glad that everyone takes it in good spirit because, obviously, for myself, I want to give as good quality content as possible. So it does frustrate me when this stuff happens. It's out of my control.
Unfortunately, yeah, you don't control the internet. That's the problem.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But I do appreciate everyone is still having a fun time regardless of it. But Martin's saying here, the son teaching the father Sting can easily have a singles match, no doubt, especially with this. And yeah, I mean, the thing is they could do so. And another question I've got for you as well is, with the idea that perhaps Jeff Hardy is going to be signing anytime now, could we see the Hardys versus Darby Allin and Sting?
That's the next match for me. That's what I reckon it could be next is the crazy 2 extreme Hardy Boys going up against Darby Allin and then the 60-something-year-old turned 25-year-old Sting. That'll be the next feud.
I look forward to it. I'm down for that. I'm really excited for the idea and prospect of that match. That'll be pretty awesome. And let's talk about the main event then, shall we? Because obviously we had Hangman Adam Page against Adam Cole, and the fans going, "Let's go, Adam! Adam sucks." I thought it was a nice little touch there at the start. There, I thought it was awesome. But also, I mean, this match. Another great match between these two. Great chemistry. I love the way that it just shown over time as well how Adam Page has evolved as well from the Ring of Honor days. How he's become now a top star rather than being like a part of the B squad of Adam Cole's version of the Bullet Club in Ring of Honor. I love that how they've evolved that. But what would you think of the match with these two?
Yeah, a solid match. It's just a problem that I don't know what it is with Hangman. I don't know if it just feels like since he won the title, everything's just. I don't know whether all the attention's died off him or what it is, but this was a must-need win for Hangman. He needed to win this to solidify his reign as an AEW World Championship. He needed it 100%. This couldn't have gone any other way for me. The match itself, hard hitting. I almost got a slight glimmer of a Hangman heel turn for me because of some of the stuff he was doing, like the fact that he pushed Alex Reynolds when Reynolds tried to help him up when he was on the outside of the ring. Then the fact that he had done, like, he was doing some heelish stuff towards the end of the match. He hits the boom on Adam Cole and stuff like that. It was giving me heel vibes, and I was like, maybe we are getting a heel Hangman. I don't know, but that's just what it was to me.
I did notice those couple of little nuggets you mentioned there. So I think there was certainly potential in it. And I wonder to see if that will play into any narrative going forward anywhere. Particularly, like you said, with Red Dragon coming down to ringside, you thought yourself, here we go. We're going to get that storyline narrative. Obviously, Dark Order coming down to make the save. The beatdown goes to the back. No Young Bucks, none at all. That was interesting as well. The table was actually put at ringside as well. We saw the Deadeye used from Hangman Adam Page onto Adam Cole. Like you say, going towards the finish, obviously Adam Cole was boom with it. I like the way it was protected by not having the knee packed down. I thought that was a nice little touch, especially mentioned on commentary as well, to make sure we knew that home to protect that finisher. But like you say, Hangman Page used it and then hit a second buckshot lariat. Of course, Adam Cole kicking out the first one, but didn't kick out the second one. Hangman Adam Page winning the match, retaining the championship, and obviously using the Code of Honor at the end there as well, going back to the Ring of Honor days, shaking the hand of Adam Cole. Is that another subtle thing of appreciating the heel, or is it a thing of just the Code of Honor?
I think it's more of a flashback to the Ring of Honor days, because I don't know whether they're trying to bring this stuff into more relativity because they now own Ring of Honor or whatever it may be, but it could very well be that. But yeah, just like I said, it's just the Hangman needs to. They need to do something with Hangman now that he's got this match out of the way, and they need to get him essentially back into the spotlight, because, like I said, for the last couple of weeks, it just feels like he's not been like it's all been Adam Cole, really. Adam Cole this, Adam Cole that. I mean, we had the great promo from Page last week where he sat down in the middle of the ring. He gave Adam Cole the middle finger. He did story time with Hangman Page. Just they need to do something. They get the crowd back behind him again, or if they are pushing him heel, it's just going to wait and see. Unfortunately, what happens this week.
It's going to be interesting because I feel that like MJF would be the perfect opponent for Hangman going forward, because he could play on the vulnerabilities of Hangman, of how he was to become champion, and saying, you're not doing this. You're not the world champion that you thought you'd be. You're not getting over the same. Do you know what I mean? You're not the top guy of the company you thought you were. That's a storyline I think the Hangman needs. And I think that self-doubt can creep back in, can get fans back on side of him once again. I don't think it's any fault of Hangman Adam Page himself. I just think it's the way he's been booked, portrayed.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, his next feud needs to be with a heel that no one likes. So, not like Miro. I know Miro's out injured now, but if he was as hated as he was when he was first in WWE, he'd have been perfect. But everyone loves Miro, so he's a really pointless character, because everyone will just get behind Miro and want Miro to win the championship. So yeah, his next one needs to be someone that essentially the crowd hate. But off the top of my head, I can't think of a lot of names that the crowd don't really like in AEW. So
it's going to be interesting how it plays out. Maybe Chris Jericho could be an interesting one. I know that he's lost here in this show here, but he could be an interesting one that could come in, especially if he seems to be going heel as well, because he was the person that stopped Hangman Adam Page winning the championship on that first time to become the first ever world champion. Maybe Jericho could be a fun one to do if he can get a win over Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, I mean, but the crowd loves singing his songs, so
yes.
Like I said, if they can do it right, then hopefully. Like I said, that would make a lot of logical sense story-wise, because obviously those two were in the first ever championship match. Jericho knows he can beat Hangman. It kind of makes a lot of sense. But then is it too cliche? That's the other thing.
There is always that risk. I still think CM Punk, come Double or Nothing, will be the challenger for the championship. I think it'll be face versus face if I had to predict now. I think that's how it will go. And I think the Hangman will get the big win over CM Punk, and it will seem like a big sort of notch on the belt, if you want, as his reign as world champion before he goes off to lose the title, say to an MJF later down the year.
Yeah, it could very well could be. I mean, Punk's essentially there to work with all these guys, so if that's what they want to do, I'm all for that. It sounds really good, and it's something I'd actually really want to see.
Absolutely. We'll go to the chat quickly. Martin says that Page has still got those babyface pops, but still think he hasn't had the real main event feud. And I think that's a really good point that's made there. I think that could be what's lacking. And I think if the right feud comes in, I think it could change around altogether. Also, has been said here as well, just quickly, Jen, we'll quickly go to you, Steve, saying that Brit and Page chasing the titles rather than holding them, they've lost all the fire they had, could be a point that's also been made here by Martin. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He hasn't had the main feud, but essentially his feud was Kenny Omega. It was taking the title off of Kenny. That was Hangman's story. But the problem is they've not carried. Essentially, they needed to carry on the Page Hangman again. Like, did Hangman defend it against Omega? I can't even remember now. It's been so long.
No,
No,
Omega's
that's what
been
I'm
out
saying.
since.
That's what I mean. I think they needed a payoff match where Hangman definitively beat Kenny again. I know it's too much to ask because it's Kenny Omega. He's like the god. He's like a wrestling god. But yeah, it feels like almost like as if that feud never finished. And Hangman, we never got the proper payoff where Hangman definitively beat him and says, "No, I am the AEW World Champion." But yeah, it's the same for Brit, really. But not really. I wouldn't say so much for Brit actually, because Brit's still been like relevant. I don't know if it's because Hangman's not around as much, but Brit seems to be around every week, and she's still been doing great character work, and she's beating people left, right, and center. But Hangman, I can't remember the last time he actually wrestled before before these two matches with Adam Cole. I mean, who I don't even remember the last time it was against. Maybe it was in a multi-man with a Dark Order or something like that.
Yeah, he was in with the Dark Order this past week against Adam Cole and Red Dragon, and before that, he
Yeah,
was actually against Lance Archer in the Texas Death Match. I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
yeah. That's what I
So,
mean. So, do you know what I mean? He's very sporadically on TV, and like he's almost like Brock Lesnar. Like he's just never around with the title. He turns up, has a match, and then disappears again. So that's how I feel about it anyway.
yeah, it's certainly interesting. I mean, with the Lance Archer feud, he was sort of in the mid card area. I think that was where it kind of didn't help. He wasn't like he was turning up, like you say, random parts of the show rather than actually long, meaningful parts. And he said he'd not wrestled for a long time at that point as well. And I think he had a problem with that as well with Danielson. Danielson was wrestling every week, going through the Dark Order members. Page was like, I've won the title and I've not wrestled. I want to wrestle. So he always said the right things, but he wasn't put on the show. And I think it comes down more to bad booking than Page himself, in my opinion.
Yeah, but then as well, but like I said, like you said there, Brian Danielson and Lance Archer. Brian Danielson is a massive crowd favorite. Everyone loves him. Lance Archer, everyone loves Lance Archer, man. They want nothing more than to see Lance Archer win another title and be up there. So, do you know what I mean? They're putting him with all these fan favorites, which is not what they should be doing. They should be putting him against people he can beat, and people are okay with it.
We'll have to see how it'll play out. It's going to be very interesting to see what the next feud is going to be, because, like I say, it's hard to know at this point where it's going to go from here. But one thing is for sure, with Adam Cole, it looks like that we could be carrying on with a feud. Maybe there could be a question of where were the Young Bucks. I think that's definitely what could be coming out from this show for me, and we could start getting more of a storyline directive going on now with Adam Cole, Red Dragon against the Bucks, and maybe when Kenny Omega returns, or does Hangman join the Elite once again? There's certainly different ideas what you can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, and say with Jay White, what's Jay White doing still? Is he still hanging around and all this kind of stuff? I mean, maybe Chris Bay comes in as well from Impact, and we
That'd
get
be
more
awesome.
of the, and we obviously then you've got the Good Brothers as well. They're still hanging around. Maybe we just get like this massive, I don't know, sort of dilemma Bullet Club gang warfare where you've got like Jay Lethal and the Good Brothers taking on Kenny and the Bucks taking on Hangman, and I don't know whether I know Red Dragon never been part of Bullet Club, but do you know what I mean? Just some sort of 9-man free for all, essentially.
That'd be really exciting to see if that's how it would play out. And certainly, the thing is with AEW, anything can always happen. Tony Khan seems to have these big announcements going week in and week out, so it's very, very exciting to see. To give them a rating before we finish off in the chat and finish off the stream today, what would be your match rating for Hangman Adam Page versus Adam Cole?
I'd go 3.5. It was a good solid match that Hangman needed to win, so I'd say 3.5.
I think you're solid on the mark. 3.5 seems very, very appropriate. And to give it then a full rating, we'll say rather than a 5-star, but what would you give as a score at 10 for this show?
I'm gonna say a 7 because we've gone over some of the points. It was too long in places. There was matches that shouldn't have been on the card, or that could have probably not been on the card that made this really long. The women's matches didn't get booked ideally in the best spot, but then on the plus side, you've had solid wrestling the whole show, crazy spots. William Regal debuting, Shane Strickland debuting. Yeah, just like from a wrestling perspective, solid show. It's just all the other things that unfortunately bump it down for me.
I can understand exactly where you're coming from, particularly with the length of the show. But the thing is, unfortunately, Steve, I'm going to be a bit of a fanboy about this. I'm going 8.5 because, like you say, the things that were good were brilliant. I mean, you look even with the buy-in, the 6-man tag on that. You go with the 3-team tag match, the Face of the Revolution, the dog collar match. We had William Regal turning up, like you say, Shane Strickland as well. We a solid main event in amongst there as well. I mean, there were some great things. The crazy spots in the trios match. It's just a shame. It's just the women's matches could have been given more time and perhaps given more of a build. Maybe would have been quite nice. I think that's the things that let them down. Like with Jade Cargill and Tay Conti, there wasn't really much of a story going into the match.
Even legit Layla Hirsch and Chris Statlander in the kick in the buy-in, there was minimal amount of build to it. It's just it was just to say it was the running theme with the women tonight. It was just crazy sort of sporadic building, or do you know what I mean, rushed building for it.
Fingers crossed that can be addressed at some point, and it definitely will actually make these shows to a 10 out of 10, because damn it, they're feeling like they're getting closer. They're giving some very, very exciting stuff. Before we leave us today, though, we've got Shahid with another question for us. He says, at this point, we don't see Diamante in AEW Dynamite instead of a dark single competitor match. Or why don't we see Diamante part of that? I don't know. Diamante is quite a talented performer. She was around, wasn't she, with Eva Lise at one point? They won the tag team tournament thing that went on a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. But she's not about. She's a good performer. Is she someone that you want to see more in the division?
Be honest with you, I'm very behind on the women's side of it. I know of I've seen the likes of Chris Statlander, your Britt Bakers and all this kind of stuff, but a lot of the lower, not lower card, but the lesser known female wrestlers, I don't watch Dark. I don't watch any of the YouTube shows, unfortunately, to see a lot of her, and I can't remember a lot of the stuff from a couple of years ago. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's got a crazy spot in it, like my brain just doesn't remember a lot of details as it should do, really. But like I said, if she's a solid worker and do you know what I mean? If she's a solid worker, she'll get her time to shine. I have no doubt about it. But it just they just need to carry on building this women's division, because obviously it's been a problem since day one that they're slowly rectifying, but they'll get there. So hopefully, I'll say at some point we can get, I don't know, like I said, a women's tag team division going, because that way we get more women on the show. We need to bring a trios tag team title in. I know that much for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be definitely interesting to see when that does come in. And of course, Tony Khan did say he's quite interested in the idea of that when when Kenny Omega does make his return. So it'll be interesting when that does happen. I've got another question from Martin as well before we close off the stream, saying, what if Layla Hirsch wins and we get Brit versus Rosa at Double or Nothing 2022? I'm fine with that if they do that, because that would give more of a build for Brit and Rosa to get to Double or Nothing. That would be at the end of May. So you'd have a chance to build a really good story.
Yeah, and especially with Double or Nothing, it's being booked in a bigger venue as well now. It's not like where they've held it the last couple of years. It's a brand new venue, a bigger capacity. It's like 14,000 or something. So it's going to be a much bigger show and have a much bigger feel to it this year as well. So yeah, they could do that.
They could do indeed. It's going to be interesting to see them when they're back in Vegas. So we'd be quite open to that idea if they do it, although I still reckon that it probably will be at the St. Patrick's Day Slam. But hey, I'm open to that idea as well. And we've been asked about AEW Heels. I don't think we've probably watched that ourselves, have we?
No, unfortunately, I don't. There's so much wrestling content, and I've got 2 kids and a job, and it's just like I don't get time to watch it all. It's like most of my time I end up watching sporadic highlights, like a trimmed down version. It's like, for instance, Raw. I can't sit there and I can't justify watching 3 hours. I've got stuff to do, so I try and find like an edited version on YouTube or wherever, or even catch some of the YouTube highlights just to get sort of a quick fix of it. And if there's anything that takes my fancy, I'll go back and watch the whole thing. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm not blessed for time when it comes to wrestling content. I have, unfortunately, other priorities.
Absolutely. I think it's a full-time job trying to keep up with all the wrestling going on in the world. And there is so much of it. And AEW gives, like you say, 4 or 5 different shows a week. It's enough watching Dynamite and Rampage. Same with WWE. I've not had a chance to even look at Level Up since they've done that with NXT, the new variation of the show. Just not the time, not the opportunity. But I know that they're putting some good stuff out there.
Yeah, that's the problem. That was what the problem was with 205, when you had the likes of Mustafa Ali and Buddy Murphy having these absolute bar burner matches, but no one's watching them because there's too much content out there, unfortunately. Luckily enough for us with that stuff, you can go back and watch it on the WWE network. But yeah, there's unfortunately too much wrestling on a weekly basis and not enough time to watch it.
Absolutely. You have to make your priorities and make your choices and watch your favorites. And we've watched one of our favorites anyway, AEW. We've watched Revolution. I think overall, we can say that we've enjoyed this show and we enjoyed this stream. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me on again, fella. Nice to always be here.
It has been great to have you on. I do think that with the last couple of streams, I'm going to just say this now. I think that it's probably best that I don't do a Q&A tomorrow live because the connection hasn't been the strongest on the last couple of times. So I think I will just go back to recorded content for the next week or so, and we'll establish where we are the following week, and maybe we can get back to doing more live content once again, because I want to give live stuff because it's great to interact with everyone at the same time, but obviously I want it to work while I'm doing it as well, because it's not really fun for everybody else otherwise. But what I will say is, if you can do, hit the thumb up on this video, leave any comments, anything you want us to discuss with you in the chat after this video, more than happy to do so. NXT, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here as always, and like I say, great talking about pro wrestling with you, and honestly, if we'd let us, we'd go on for hours, but of course, you know, we try and keep it as condensed for you to enjoy it as possible. But thank you everyone for watching anyway. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube. Take care, have yourselves a great day, and we'll see you next time. And just to let you know as well, if you're a WWE fan, keep an eye out for fantasy booking video that's going to be coming out for you this week. The New Day fantasy booking breakup. You asked for it. It's recorded. It's ready. It's coming next on the channel. Look forward to seeing you there. Take care. All the best.